On the morning of September 3, 1990, a 19-year-old girl left a note on a kitchen table in Florence, Italy. She said she was going to Siena. She said she would be back that evening. Less than 24 hours later, a young woman matching her description was found dead in Spain, nearly 1,000 kilometers away. She had no passport, no money, no bag, no identification, nothing that explained how she had crossed half of southern Europe, and nothing that told police who she was. For 32 years, the people in that Spanish border town knew her only by the place where she was found, the Girl of Portbou. And even after her real name was finally discovered, the most important question in the case remained exactly where it had always been. What happened between the note in Florence and the tree in Spain? Her name was Evi Anna Rauter. She was 19 years old. She had grown up in Lana, a quiet town in South Tyrol, the German-speaking region of northern Italy near the Austrian border. It is a place of mountains, orchards, clean streets, and small communities where people know each other's families. A place where a young woman leaving for a short trip is expected to come home. Evi's life, from the outside, did not seem unusual. She had finished school. She was preparing for university. People close to her described her as quiet, reserved, and intelligent. Not reckless, not known for vanishing. Not someone whose family expected to wake up one morning and begin a search that would last more than 3 decades. At the beginning of September 1990, Evi traveled south to Florence to visit her older sister. Florence was different from the Alpine town where she had grown up. Crowded, hot, full of tourists, students, train stations, buses, and old stone streets that could make even a simple walk feel like a maze. Her sister was studying there, and the visit was supposed to be ordinary. A few days together. A short break before Evi's life moved into its next chapter. On the morning of September 3rd, the two sisters had breakfast. There was no public account of an argument, no known warning, no dramatic final conversation. Nothing that suggested this would become the last normal morning of Evi's life. Then her sister left for class. Evi stayed behind in the apartment. At some point after that, she wrote a short note. "I'm going to Siena. I'll be back this evening." Siena was not a strange choice. It was close enough to Florence for a day trip. A student could go there, walk through the medieval streets, see the city, and return before night. The note did not sound like a farewell. It did not sound like a confession. It sounded like a plan. So when her sister came home and found it, there was no immediate reason to panic. Not yet. But evening came, then night, then the next morning, and Evi still had not returned. Her family reported her missing. They gave police her name, her age, her description, and the clothes she had been wearing: denim overalls, a green t-shirt, black sandals, a Casio watch. Those details should have mattered. In fact, those details should have solved the case almost immediately. But they didn't, because by the time Evi's family was searching for her in Italy, another police file had already been opened in Spain, and the two files would not meet for 32 years. Portbou is a small town on the Mediterranean coast, pressed against the French border at the northeastern edge of Spain. It is not the kind of place most travelers end up by accident. For decades, Portbou existed as a railway border town. Trains stopped there, passengers changed routes, documents were checked. People crossed from one country into another. In 1990, that mattered. Europe did not move then the way it moves now. Borders carried more weight. International travel left more traces. A person moving from Italy through France and into Spain would usually need documents, tickets, money, or help. And yet, on the morning of September 4th, less than a day after Evi left that note in Florence, a local resident was walking near the cemetery on the hillside above Portbou. There are pine trees on that hillside, a path near the cemetery, the Mediterranean below, the French border behind it. And just off that path, hanging from a low branch of a pine tree, was the body of a young woman. She was wearing denim overalls, a green t-shirt, black sandals, a Casio watch. The same description Evi's family had just given police in Italy, but no one in Portbou knew that. To the local authorities, she was not Evi Rauter. She was an unidentified young woman found dead near the cemetery. They searched for anything that could tell them who she was. There was nothing. No passport, no purse, no money, no key, no ticket, no hotel receipt, no address, no note. Nothing that pointed to a city, a country, a friend, a hotel, a train, or a name. And the absence of those things becomes more disturbing the longer you look at the case. Because Florence to Portbou is not a walk. It is not a wrong turn. It is not a confused afternoon. It is a journey across a large part of southern Europe. And however Evi made that journey, she appears to have arrived without the basic items a person would normally need to make it. Police began asking around. Nobody nearby recognized her. No one in town reported knowing her. No one in the surrounding area had filed a missing person report that seemed to match her. Some later accounts mentioned people working near the area that morning. The exact details vary depending on the source, but the unsettling part remains the same. There was no clear witness who saw her arrive. No clear witness who saw anyone with her. No clear witness who could explain when the young woman from Florence reached that tree. The investigation began with the tools available in a small town in 1990. Photographs, fingerprints, a physical description, clothing. Those details were recorded and circulated, but DNA was not handled the way it likely would be today. The systems that now connect missing people to unidentified remains were weaker, slower, and far more dependent on human attention. So the unknown girl was documented. Then she was buried. And the first great failure in the case may not have looked like a failure at the time. It may have looked like procedure. The first clue to who she was did not come from a witness. It did not come from a ticket. It did not come from a passport hidden somewhere in town. It came from something smaller, a label stitched into her clothing. The denim overalls she was wearing carried a brand label connected to H&M. That mattered because, according to later reporting, H&M did not have stores in Spain in 1990, so the clothes suggested what the missing documents could not prove. The girl probably had not come from Spain. Maybe she came from Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Scandinavia, Italy, somewhere in Europe where those clothes could have been bought, borrowed, gifted, or packed inside a bag that was no longer with her. For investigators, the label narrowed the world, but not enough. A clothing label can suggest where someone might have been. It cannot give police her name. Spanish authorities circulated her photograph and description. The case moved beyond Portbou, beyond Catalonia, beyond Spain. But nothing came back. And this is where the story becomes almost unbearable. Because in Italy, a family had already reported a missing girl, 19 years old, brown hair, blue eyes. Last seen in Florence, wearing denim overalls, a green t-shirt, black sandals, and a Casio watch. In Spain, police had an unidentified dead girl, brown hair, blue eyes, found near Portbou. Wearing denim overalls, a green t-shirt, black sandals, and a Casio watch. Two countries had two halves of the same answer, and somehow, the answer never formed. Maybe one description was incomplete. Maybe one photograph never reached the right desk. Maybe it arrived in the wrong language. Maybe someone saw it and did not connect it. Maybe the file was buried under hundreds of other missing people, unidentified bodies, and routine paperwork. Maybe the distance between Florence and Portbou made the obvious seem impossible. Whatever the reason, the result was the same. In Italy, Evi's family waited for her to come home. In Spain, an unidentified girl remained buried without a name. And for 32 years, no one realized they were the same person. Over time, the case became known locally as the case of the Girl of Portbou. The name sounds almost like folklore, but it was not folklore. It was a real young woman in a grave, a real family living with a disappearance that never resolved, a real police file with a photograph that should have connected to another photograph somewhere else. Years passed, then decades. The world changed around the case. Borders opened, databases improved, DNA became routine, cold cases became searchable. But the Girl of Portbou stayed where she was, unknown, unclaimed, suspended between countries. Then, in April of 2022, the break finally came. Not from a forensic laboratory, not from a police archive, not from a confession, from television. An Austrian program called Crims aired a segment about the unidentified girl found hanging from a tree in Portbou in 1990. For the first time, the old Spanish police photograph was shown to a German-speaking audience. That detail matters, because Evi had grown up in a German-speaking part of Italy. The case had been waiting for more than 3 decades, not only for technology, but for the right person to see the right face in the right language. Somewhere in Bolzano, northern Italy, a woman was watching. She saw the photograph, and something about the face stayed with her. Not because she knew the girl personally, not because she had been in Portbou, but because she remembered an old missing person case from South Tyrol, a young woman who had vanished from Florence in 1990. A case that had once been local news, then slowly disappeared into the background of other years. The woman contacted the program. She told them the unidentified girl in Spain might be someone from South Tyrol, a missing teenager. Her name might be Evi Rauter. The information was passed along. Authorities contacted the family. And after 32 years, the photograph from Portbou was finally shown to the people who should have seen it in 1990. The Girl of Portbou had a name, Evi Anna Rauter, 19 years old, from Lana, Italy. The younger sister who had left a note in Florence saying she would be back that evening. For her family, the identification answered one unbearable question. They now knew Evi had died the day after she disappeared. The waiting had lasted 32 years. But Evi had been gone within 24 hours. And still, the identification did not explain the case. It did not explain the route. It did not explain the missing belongings. It did not explain why a young woman who said she was going to Siena ended up on the Spanish border. It did not explain whether she traveled alone. And it did not explain what happened after she arrived. Her family finally knew who the Girl of Portbou was. They still did not know how she got there. Once Evi was identified, the old case changed shape. It was no longer the death of an unknown woman in a small Spanish border town. It was the final known chapter of a 19-year-old whose family had been searching for her since 1990. That difference matters, because when a person is unidentified, a case can become strangely abstract. A body, a photograph, a set of measurements, a clothing label. But once the person has a name, every missing detail becomes personal. And Evi's case comes down to 3 questions that have never been answered. The first is the route. Portbou was a railway border town, so it is possible to imagine how someone moving through Europe by train could pass through it. But possibility is not explanation. No public record has shown why Evi would leave Florence for Portbou. No confirmed witness placed her along the route. No recovered ticket explained her path. No known account explained why a teenager who said she was going to Siena would instead travel towards Spain. The second question is what vanished with her. If Evi traveled by train, where was her ticket? If she crossed borders, where were her documents? If she bought food, made calls, changed trains, asked directions, or waited on platforms, who saw her? If she traveled by car, who drove? If she hitchhiked, who picked her up? If she planned to disappear, why did she leave behind a note saying she would return that evening? Any one missing detail might be explainable. Together, they become the center of the mystery. The route vanished, the ticket vanished, the money vanished, the documents vanished, the bag vanished, the witnesses vanished, and for 32 years, her name vanished too. The third question is the death itself. The Spanish investigation treated the case as suicide. There were no publicly known signs of a violent struggle, and the body had been found hanging from a tree. In that context, the conclusion may have seemed simple. But after Evi was identified, the conclusion no longer felt complete. Her father has said he does not believe his daughter killed herself, and some later reporting has suggested that even people connected to the investigation were not entirely comfortable with how neatly the original explanation fit. That does not prove foul play. It does not disprove suicide. It leaves the case in the narrow, disturbing space between possibilities. If Evi traveled alone, then she somehow crossed a large part of Europe in less than a day, left behind no confirmed trail, reached a town she had no known connection to, and died near a cemetery without the documents, money, or belongings that should have explained her journey. If someone else was involved, then that person has never been publicly identified, never charged, and may have carried the missing answer out of Portbou that morning. Either way, the same problem remains. The official conclusion may describe how she died. It does not explain how she got there. There is also the legal reality of time. By the time Evi was identified in 2022, more than 3 decades had passed since her death. Public reporting has noted that Spanish authorities faced major obstacles because of statutes of limitations. In simple terms, even if investigators had wanted to pursue a homicide theory after the identification, the passage of 32 years made prosecution extraordinarily difficult. That does not mean the truth stopped mattering. It means the system had run out of the kind of time Evi's family had never been given. For her parents and sister, there was still one thing left that could be done. They wanted to bring her home, not solve every unanswered question, not undo the decades, not force the past to give back what it had taken. Just bring Evi's remains back to South Tyrol and bury her with her family, under her own name. To do that, Spanish authorities had to locate her remains. After her original burial, they were believed to have been moved to a communal grave in Figueres. This should have been the part of the story that finally became simple. They had her name, they had the old records, they had a family waiting. They had a reason to open the grave. In late 2024, the search began. Officials and forensic specialists focused on the area of the cemetery believed to match the records of her transfer. The work was careful, slow, methodical. They were no longer looking for the Girl of Portbou. They were looking for Evi Rauter. And for the first time in decades, it seemed possible that the case might give her family something certain. Not the full truth, not justice, just a grave with the right name on it. Then, the grave was opened, and she was not there. The team searched the area believed to hold her remains. They examined what was found. They checked the records again. But the remains they were looking for could not be located. There are possible explanations. Maybe the cemetery records were wrong. Maybe she was moved to a different location. Maybe her remains were placed in a separate niche under an incomplete description. Maybe the body was moved more than once. Maybe the paper trail, already fragile, broke somewhere over 34 years. The answer may still be somewhere in Figueres. Written badly in an old ledger. Sealed inside a cemetery wall. Attached to the wrong number. Filed under the wrong description. But the result, for now, is brutally simple. The family that waited 32 years to learn where Evi had been buried still cannot bury her. They know her name. They know where she was found. They know the town. They know the hillside. They know the tree. They know the day. They do not know the missing hours. And they do not know where her remains are now. There is a particular cruelty in Evi Rauter's case. It does not come from any one theory. It comes from near misses. The note in Florence should have led to Siena. It did not. The clothing description should have connected Italy and Spain. It did not. The photographs should have found each other. They did not. The investigation should have preserved a clear path to identification. It did not. The television broadcast finally gave Evi back her name, but it did not give her family the body. Every answer in this case seems to arrive late. And when it arrives, it brings another question with it. In September of 1990, a 19-year-old girl wrote that she would be back that evening. The sentence was ordinary when she left it. It became unbearable only later because by the next morning, she was in another country. By the next day, she was unidentified. By the next decade, she had become a cold case. By the next 30 years, her family was still waiting. And when the world finally learned her name, the case did not close around it. It opened again. The hillside in Portbou is still there. The cemetery is still there. The sea is still below it. People still pass through the town because it sits where one country becomes another. And somewhere in the record of those 24 hours, there is an answer that has never surfaced. A ticket that was never found. A witness who never spoke. A bag that vanished. A person who may have traveled with her. Or a moment when a young woman, alone and far from home, reached the end of a journey no one has ever been able to reconstruct. For 32 years, she was called the Girl of Portbou. Now we know her name was Evi Anna Rauter. But the name is not the ending. It is only the one part of the story that finally came back. Everything else is still missing. The route, the belongings, the final hours, the body, and the tree in Portbou is still there. It may be the only thing in this story that has never moved.